Welcome to the Inspired Podcast. I'm your host, Andrea De La Cerda, and each week I'm bringing you the latest discussions and news about changes in the landscape of education and entrepreneurship. As a 22-year entrepreneur, corporate executive, business coach, and leader, I mentor a community of change-making men and women to get out of their box and step into their true calling to make the biggest impact. This podcast is all about empowering women, navigating life's twists and turns, and stepping into the fullest version of who we're meant to be. Let's start this week's episode by being honest about something, can we? As women, we've been conditioned since childhood to be the helpers, the pleasers, the ones who make sure everyone else is comfortable, and sometimes at our own expense. From a young age, we hear subtle and sometimes not so subtle messages like, be nice, don't make waves, remember to put others first, and don't be difficult. These messages don't disappear when we step into entrepreneurship or leadership. I wish they did. Instead, they just shapeshift. They become the voice that tells us we should take that client even though our gut says no. The pressure to discount our rates to avoid seeming greedy. The impulse to respond to emails at midnight because we don't want to seem unavailable. A study from Columbia Business School found that women are 16% more likely than men to take on non-promotable tasks in the workplace. Those are the sneaky, seemingly harmless tasks that need to be done, but usually carry little visibility or career advancement. And when we transition into entrepreneurship, we often carry this pattern with us. I see it all the time in the women I coach, and I'm sure you've seen it too. It often looks like the copywriter who keeps extending her scope of work without charging more because she doesn't want to nickel and dime her clients. Or the consultant who blocks her calendar for anyone and everyone who asks for a quick coffee chat and then wonders why she can't make progress on her actual business goals. And the toll is real. Up until now, you might have called it strategy. A Harvard Business Review called it people-pleasing. And in a recent study, they found that saying yes when you want to say no is directly linked to increased levels of stress, reduced job satisfaction, and even higher rates of burnout. For women entrepreneurs specifically, this manifests as what I call the resentment cycle. It starts with saying yes to something that doesn't serve you, and then you start to feel overwhelmed and behind on your actual priorities. You naturally begin to resent the commitment as you struggle to fulfill it. And when you deliver, it's often with a lot less energy and enthusiasm. And because you recognize that, you feel guilty about your negative feelings. So you end up saying yes to the next request to compensate for the guilt. Does this sound familiar? It's exhausting, and it's keeping you from showing up fully for the work that actually matters. Here's a mindset shift that completely changed the way I do business. Boundaries are not barriers. They're bridges. They're how we create sustainable, respectful, and energizing connections with our clients, our teams, and ourselves. When I first started setting firmer boundaries in my work, I will be honest with you, I was really nervous. I worried that it might come off as rigid or that opportunities would eventually just dry up. But what actually happened? It's the opposite. Boundaries became a magnet for aligned partnerships. The clearer I got about how I work best, the more I attracted this kind of clients and collaborators who not only respected those boundaries, but thrived within them. Think about it this way. When you protect your time, you have the mental, physical, and emotional bandwidth to show up in a way that's more present and powerful for the things you do say yes to. When you set clear pricing and explanation of your deliverables, you attract clients who truly value your expertise. When you define your availability, you create the space needed to do your best, most focused and energized work. So contrary to popular belief, boundaries aren't about saying no to everything. In reality, They're about saying yes to the right things. So what does that look like in practice? It'll be really different for everyone, but I've created a list of some key areas where I see most entrepreneurs benefit. Number one, office hours and availability. I want you to take a moment to ask yourself, do my clients expect me to respond at all hours? Am I constantly interrupted by notifications? Setting defined times when you're available for calls, meetings, and responses creates predictability for both you and the people you work with. You might consider making a Calendly account for easy meeting scheduling within your defined availability, or providing your typical response windows in a client welcome email. These simple steps, they're small, but simple, clear, and set the tone for a respectful professional relationship at the jump. And then number 2 on our list, scope of work and pricing. This is a big one, especially for service providers. How often have you found yourself doing just one more thing that wasn't in the original agreement? Those small extensions add up to significant unpaid time and energy. Creating clear deliverables, timelines, and processes for handling scope changes protects both you and your client. Remember, a boundary without a consequence is just a suggestion. If someone consistently pushes your boundaries around scope, you have permission to raise your rates or part ways. And third, can be especially challenging for some of us, social energy and networking obligations. This can be big. Not every networking opportunity deserves your time. Not every industry event needs your presence. Learning to be truly selective about where and with whom you spend your social energy is crucial for introverts and extroverts alike. Ask yourself, will this connection or event directly serve my vision? Does it energize me or drain me? Is there maybe a more efficient way to achieve the same result? Sometimes the most powerful networking happens in small, focused groups rather than large events where you collect business cards that gather dust. And before we talk about how to say no effectively, let's address how to recognize when you should be saying no in the first place. Here are some red flags that your yes might be coming from maybe a misaligned place. So, red flag number 1, you feel a sense of obligation rather than enthusiasm. That heavy feeling in your chest, that subtle dread when you think about the commitment, that's your body's wisdom talking. That true alignment feels like expansion, not constriction. And red flag number 2, you're saying yes out of FOMO. What if this is my only chance? What if I never get asked again? These fear-based questions often lead to commitments that don't serve your highest goals. Red flag number 3 is something we all deal with, but women have it even harder. You feel pressured or guilted into agreeing. Any request that comes with manipulation, and those can be either subtle or they can be overt, it deserves really careful scrutiny. Phrases like things like, everyone else is on board, or, gosh, I really thought you'd support this, are often red flags. Red flag number 4, you're confusing someone else's urgency for your priority. This one gets me a lot. Just because something is important to someone else doesn't automatically make it important to you. Their emergency is not necessarily your emergency. And red flag number 5, and I know I'm definitely guilty of this one too, you believe your worth comes from constant productivity or people pleasing. This one is deep. If you find yourself saying yes because you believe your value comes from how much you do or how many people you please, it might be time to examine that belief. Because the truth is, your worth isn't tied to your output. You are inherently valuable, regardless of how many projects you take on or how many people you make happy. And now for the practical part. How do you actually say no in a way that feels good and preserves relationships? First, remember that no is a complete sentence. You don't always need to explain or justify your decision. I'll say that again. You don't always need to explain or justify your decision. However, in professional contexts, a bit more finesse can go a long way. So here are some scripts that I've used and taught that maintain both boundaries and relationships. So for opportunities that don't align with your current goals and your current focus, try this one. Thank you for thinking of me. With all I have going on at the moment, I'm not able to give this the attention it deserves. I'd be happy to recommend someone else who might be a better fit. Or for project inquiries that maybe don't meet your minimum rates, you might say, thank you so much for reaching out. My current investment for this type of work starts at XYZ. If that's beyond your budget right now, I completely understand and would be happy to suggest some other resources that might help. When navigating a conversation with friends or family, I'll often say, I love supporting you, and I'm learning to be more protective of my time and energy. While I can't take this on, here's how I can help. Then maybe you can offer a specific form of support that feels good to you. The key is to be direct and kind and avoid over-explaining. You don't have to do that. And I want to point something else out. Notice that I'm not apologizing in these examples because declining something that doesn't serve you doesn't require an apology from you. If you're having these conversations in person, I always recommend maintaining eye contact and steady posture. There's no need for shrinking or nervous fidgeting. Keeping your tone warm but firm and avoiding qualifiers like just or sort of or kind of that might undermine your position. Allowing silence after you've stated your boundary, as hard as it can be, resist that urge to fill the quiet space. And for digital communications, maybe having some templates ready can make saying no so much easier and faster. You can keep a document with some pre-written responses for common requests and customize them as needed if that's helpful to you. This prevents decision fatigue and it ensures that you're responding from a really centered place rather than a reactive one. Here's what might surprise you. Setting some clear boundaries often deepens professional relationships rather than damaging them. Now, at first glance, you might not believe me, but trust me on this. When you're clear about what you will and you won't do, you build trust. People know exactly what to expect from you. They respect your time because you respect it first. And most importantly, when you do say yes, it carries a lot of weight because people know you mean it. I experienced this firsthand when I started being more selective about speaking engagements. Instead of accepting every invitation, I created some specific criteria. The audience needed to really align with my ideal clients. The topic needed to be in my zone of genius. And the timing needed to work with my existing commitments. At first, I worried about disappointing people or I worried about missing out. But something unexpected happened. The events that I did say yes to got my full energy and my full preparation. My presentations were stronger. The audience engagement was deeper, and my host was thrilled with the value I delivered. And by saying no to what wasn't aligned, I could show up fully for what was. This principle extends to client relationships too. When you're clear about your processes, availability, and scope, you eliminate those misaligned expectations that lead to friction. And the result? Smoother projects, happier clients, and more referrals. If saying no still feels uncomfortable, let's reframe it by focusing just on what you gain rather than what you give up. Every time you say no to something that doesn't serve your vision, you say yes to more focused energy for your goals. Imagine what becomes possible when your time and attention aren't fragmented across dozens of non-essential commitments. That book you've been wanting to write, that premium offer you've been developing, With focused blocks of time, these dreams move from someday to done. A healthier body and mind, also, the physical toll of overcommitment really is real. Stress, disrupted sleep, compromised immune function, these become barriers to your long-term success. So saying no creates space for the rest and renewal that sustains your highest performance. And more self-respect and self-trust. Each time you honor your boundaries, you build trust with the most important person in your business, and that's yourself. This self-trust becomes a foundation for more confident decision-making in all areas of your work. And magnetism for aligned opportunities. There's a beautiful paradox at work when you start to say no because the right opportunities show up more frequently. It's as if the universe sees that you're serious about your standards and responds accordingly. Oh, I've watched it happen for myself and countless clients. As soon as we get clear on our non-negotiables, dream collaborations and ideal clients just seem to appear. It's crazy. A business and life that reflects your values. At the end of the day, your business is more than what you do. It's an expression of who you are. Any successful entrepreneur knows that this is true. When you protect your time and energy through strategic boundaries, you're able to create a business that feels like your home rather than a cage that you live in. And as we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Saying no isn't selfish, but it's a radical act of self-leadership. In a culture that celebrates the hustle and the yes to everything mentality, choosing discernment over people-pleasing can be counterculture. It requires courage. But on the other side of that courage is a business that energizes rather than depletes you, a business that serves as a vehicle for your vision rather than a barrier to it. Imagine that making money and lots of money in your business can be easy and frictionless. Amazing. This week, I challenge you to practice at least one strategic no. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but remember, discomfort is often a sign of growth. If you'd like to support with identifying where your boundaries need strengthening, please check out our free mental health tracker in the show notes. This simple tool helps you map your energy levels against your activities, making it easier to spot where boundary reinforcement could make the biggest difference. And I'd love to hear from you. Please share your no moments or boundary wins on Instagram and tag The Inspired Podcast or email me directly at team@theinspiredpodcast.com. Your story might be exactly what another woman needs to hear to strengthen her own boundaries. Until next week, remember, your vision matters, so protect it accordingly. I'll see you next week. Take care.